The Aggies face the Arkansas Razorbacks on Saturday, and the question is, who's going to win the quarterback battle in this game? Is it going to be Marcel Reed or Taylen Green? That'll be the conversation on today's show.
You are Locked On Aggies, your daily podcast on the Texas A&M Aggies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome on into a Locked On crossover. I'm your host of Locked On Aggies, Andrew Stefaniak, and this is Locked On Razorbacks host John Nabors. First, we got to tell you about our friends over at FanDuel. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet, and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. John, let's get right on into this. I think that quarterback here, as it is in any football game, but in this football game specifically, is going to be really interesting. I think Taylen Green's a quarterback heading into the season where I was like, I don't know if I bought it. You know what I mean? I don't know if I was buying into it. And then watching him against Oklahoma State and then watching him against Auburn, even though he made some mistakes, he was just so dangerous and so dynamic, and he's put up some huge numbers. I mean, are Arkansas fans fired up about their quarterback as much as I think I am so far?
I mean, I would say that they're fired up in the way that you are for a guy who hits a bunch of home runs but also strikes out a lot. You know, that's kind of what Taylen Green is. And, you know, Razorback fans, they have, I won't say they've been spoiled, but they've had some pretty solid quarterback play over the past 10, 15, 20 years. A lot of people may not know that because the team hasn't had success, but you think back like KJ Jefferson, who's now at UCF, was a solid quarterback. You had Austin Allen, Brandon Allen, Tyler Wilson, Ryan Mallett. Like you had all these guys that's kind of been there, but Taylen Green's a unique piece where his accuracy is not there. And it wasn't there at Boise State where he transferred from. I think Razorback fans kind of had an idea that that's what they were getting, but it's his ability to make plays with his legs. It's his way of, having it on third and long, being able to get those big first downs if nobody's open. They don't feel great and 100% confident, but they feel good enough to where if he's in the game and he's out there throwing the ball or running with it, they're fine with it. But it's been kind of hit and miss and still kind of waiting and seeing what it's going to be like going up against a good defense.
I mean, I'm with you, but it was something about watching that. I was watching the Auburn game. I was with my dad and watching that game, and in that first drive, and I know that Arkansas stalled and missed a field goal, but just something about that first drive. I mean, these guys can't stop him. Like they cannot stop him. And there was something about him. He's dynamic, and you're right. He's inaccurate. There's no question there. He made a couple mistakes where he went, ooh, but it's just like, you're right. I mean, he's the guy that he's going to go 0 for 4 with 4 strikeouts. And then the next game, he's going to go 3 for 4 with 2 bombs and a double. And you're going to go, okay, we'll take it. In this game for Texas A&M, Coach Elko comes out on I believe it was the weekly Wednesday teleconference and says, Connor Wigman, he was off to the side of practice, and he's going to try. He might be active for the game. So I think that might be a deceiving comment from Coach Elko because, a couple weeks ago or last week, he said, our quarterback decision is going to be a game time decision every game for the rest of the season, which I'm not going to pretend to understand that. I think I'm a big believer in pick a guy and roll with it. But, Marcel Reed's a really solid quarterback. He really is. He's a young guy, made his first SEC start against Florida, looked really good. Little inaccurate as well last Saturday against Bowling Green. But he's a guy I think Texas A&M fans feel confident in. So, I mean, John, like when you break down this football game and start talking quarterback battle, where are you leaning when it comes to an advantage?
I mean, it's been interesting to where we just talked about Taylen Green and, of course, the situation with Wegman and Reed. Don't really know what direction, although I think just basing off of everything, I think Reed's going to start. I'm just throwing it out there. But still, it's really tough. It is really tough because both quarterbacks, I think, have an element to them to where they can make you pay, especially, Reed can make you pay with his legs as well. So there's no real advantage there, I'd say. The only advantage I'd actually give, and this is just being honest because of where Arkansas has gone. is with Bobby Petrino as the OC. And that's why it's like, if I'd say the same thing if Bobby Petrino was still the OC over at A&M this year, where, I'm not saying he's perfect, and the offense has definitely not been perfect at times, but considering where Arkansas was a year ago, where they were dead last in most statistical categories in offense, and then this year, I mean, they're still fifth in the SEC in scoring offense. They're third in total offense, fourth in rushing offense. Passing offense, they're still fourth, even though they haven't been great. So I'd lean the advantage towards Arkansas in that, but just barely, because as we talked about, if Taylen Green makes the mistakes, then it doesn't matter how good you are. If you turn the ball over, you're not going to have much success there. So it's a slight edge to Arkansas in this case.
I agree with you. And slightly, simply because we don't know if Marcel Reed makes mistakes or not yet. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, he came into the bowl game last year against Oklahoma State because the starter, Jalen Henderson, got hurt literally on I think it was the first play of the game, literally. So he played the whole game. Then he plays against Florida. He plays on Saturday against Bowling Green. This is you don't count that Oklahoma State game as a start, but he played the full game. This is his fourth college game, basically. His second SEC game. And, so far this season, he's been mistake-free, but when does that change? There have been my complaint after the Bowling Green game, which Texas A&M only won by 6 points, which we won't get into that. But my only complaint I had on Marcel Reed was there were some throws that he didn't make that a quarterback at this level needs to make, and it will cost you some football games against teams that are not Bowling Green. So this game of late, a lot of turnovers. I remember the interception where you have the guys getting tackled and then, the ball's handed for A&M and runs it to the house. I mean, there's been turnover. This game's been weird. We talked about that last year, John. I think in our crossover, I think last year's game was one of the least weird games we've seen in this series. It was pretty, for the most part, a normal football game. But even though there were still I think Arkansas had 2 defensive touchdowns in that game still. But it was normal, but that just shows you how crazy it's been. In A&M, Anais Smith took one to that. That was kind of the dagger. I mean, there was, you know what? I take back my statement. It was definitely a weird game. I'm with you. It felt more normal than usual, but it was still weird. That'll never end. Maybe it'll end when we get back to being home and home instead of playing in Jerry World. But so Petrino, to me, I'll tell you this. Let me ask you this question, John. After watching last year, I don't think Petrino was unleashed last year. I think Jimbo was Jimboing it. How fun has it been for Arkansas fans to have Bobby Petrino back calling plays for y'all?
Oh, it's incredible. And Bobby Petrino, speaking of, just said as much in his opening press conference at Arkansas about A&M, and he basically was saying that Jimbo and the team made him learn their lingo. He didn't get to do it his way. It was more no, you got to learn how we're doing it, in which that was going to be a disaster no matter what. But I got to give Sam Pittman a lot of credit. He's just basically said, here's the offense, do whatever you want. I'll be over here if you need me. And it's been exciting because where, even though it's, again, not been perfect, but the explosive nature that the Petrino offense has, and of course, Razorback fans all will remember when Petrino was the head coach, how many explosive plays they had. That's what always gets you on the edge of your seat. If you're a 3 yards in a cloud of dust type of team where there's no excitement or anything, people are just going to be oh, okay, methodically go down the field and all that. But this offense always keeps you on the edge of your seat because at any given time, there could be a bomb downfield. There could be a huge run. There could be some sort of crazy play that no one is expecting. So yeah, the offense has, and considering how bad it was last year in offense, and it was disgusting, it's an incredible turnaround. And as much as we talk Taylen Green, I think, to me, Jaquindon Jackson, the running back for Arkansas, is the best guy on the team, and that dude is a monster. So I mean, it's been fun to watch again, but yeah, once you get into SEC play, and Arkansas is going to be facing some really good teams defensively, it's going to be interesting to see how they handle those types of situations.
Watching him last week in that game, and I watched the replay of the Oklahoma State game, but I watched the Auburn Arkansas game start to finish. I didn't realize, watching Jackson play, and then I clicked on his ESPN. I'm like, this dude's that big? Yeah. I could not believe that. He's a unit, and he's quick. He's a good back. That's going to be something that plays a role in this football game. So we're going to move on here. We're going to talk a little bit about the defense. we talked about it before we clicked record. I don't know if I'm fully buying it. I want John to try and talk me into it. We're going to talk about who wins the defensive battle here. Where are some advantages? We'll have that conversation coming up right here on a crossover between Locked On Aggies and Locked On Razorbacks. But we got to talk a little bit about Robinhood. With Robinhood Gold, you don't need a silver spoon to eat up all the financial favors of the 1%. Robinhood Gold allows others to get the rates and perks usually reserved for the high society. Now, the resourceful individual with Robinhood Gold can earn the very liberal rate of 4.5% APY on uninvested cash, receive unlimited 1% deposit bonuses, and be rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement boost on an IRA account. Robinhood Gold provides the privileges of a high net worth for any net worth. These generous benefits are now available for only $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at robinhood.com/gold. Terms apply. For product-specific disclosures, visit robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. Rate may change. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold LLC. We're back here with Andrew Stefaniak of Locked On Aggies and John Nabors of Locked On Razorbacks. A little Locked On crossover here for y'all, getting ready for this football game, which should be a fun one. And John, the defense, I want you to try and talk me into it. So here's the deal. You look at the Oklahoma State game. I was really impressed with how Arkansas played. I told all my buddies, I said, head over to FanDuel. I don't know. I kind of like Arkansas today. I really like the money line there. Heartbreaker, really close. But Arkansas is a better football team. I said this in the offseason. Arkansas is a better football team than people, I think, believe they are. And I knew that offensively. The defense is where I had questions. And I think a lot of people I've seen, even A&M fans, other fan bases, are more bought in on the defense than I am. Watching the Auburn game and watching the rerun of the Oklahoma State game, I don't know how much I bought into that. I think Auburn moved the football really, really well with a whole bunch of horrendous quarterback. I mean, that was really like embarrassing to watch for them. I feel sorry, Zach. Please don't tune into this because that was ugly. But genuinely, it was really ugly. And so how much of that is Arkansas's defense and how much of it was just poor quarterback play because Auburn moved the football? So, John, talk me into this Arkansas Razorback defense.
Well, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that it's just like this electric defense that's going to shut you down. However, the rush defense and the attack up front is really good. And, it's not like they went up against some bad teams. I mean, you're talking about in that Oklahoma State game you referenced, Ollie Gordon, who is the Doak Walker Award winner last year, held him to 2.8 yards a carry and really shut him down. Jarquez Hunter had a decent game, but overall didn't do anything crazy. So they have done a great job at stuffing the run, which is kind of ironic because they haven't been able to get to the quarterback very frequently. Landon Jackson, who is the preseason All-SEC player, doesn't even have a sack on the year. He doesn't have a tackle for loss on the year. It's crazy. So the pass defense, though, has been a problem, just kind of like normal. And I think that last week, at least against Auburn, was more about Auburn being terrible. Like their quarterback plays awful. And Arkansas took advantage of it. And you got to give credit where credit is due. But also, people may not understand this. The past 2 weeks, at least for Arkansas, they've been without two of their best defensive backs, or at least two of their top three, and Jalen Braxton and Hudson Clark. Jalen Braxton is their best defensive back. Hudson Clark is an experienced guy, the no-fly zone, as I like to call him. He's been around, and he's coming off of injury. But both of those guys, from my understanding, are going to be available this weekend. So does that mean that Arkansas is going to shut down the passing game for A&M? No, because even with those guys in, it's still been suspect. But they're at least going to be a lot better off. So it's going to be a great test, though. It's a great test for both teams. And I think Razorback defense is exactly what a Razorback defense needs to be. Good, not great. Bend, don't break. That's about what you can expect.
Yeah. What I'll be paying attention to in this game is how A&M tries to attack Arkansas. And if you look at the numbers so far for the Aggies, Colin Klein, the new OC for the Aggies, he wants to run the football. He's made that very clear. If you pull up a game by game, They are running it a lot more than they're throwing it. I thought you'd see that balance be a little bit closer than it's been this year. I knew he'd want to run the ball, but I thought you'd see it be a little bit closer. And it hasn't been. And then when Marcel Reed came in, or I thought that'd be the case with Connor Wigman, it still wasn't. Then Marcel Reed comes in. It makes more sense to me now why you want to run the ball. He's an elite athlete. He's really quick. But will they try and take advantage? Because you're right. I mean, I've talked about that on Locked On Aggies this week. They shut down a guy in Ollie Gordon who we thought could win the Heisman this year. I mean, 2.8 yards a carry for him. That is, no one would have. I wouldn't have expected that in that ball game. So do you try and beat Arkansas through the air? I don't know. I think that Colin Klein's going to stick to his guns, and it'll be interesting to see if that works. And if it doesn't work, do they start trying to air it out? Because once again, I mean, I don't think Marcel Reed's had to throw it more than 20 times in the game yet. Will he be ready for that? So that's something I am monitoring. And then, I mean, defensively, Texas A&M hasn't been as good up front as I thought they were going to be. The sacks, I predicted Texas A&M to lead the SEC in sacks this year. I don't think there's a relative chance that happens. I mean, they have like 3 or 4. Like, that's not going to happen now. They've gotten a lot of pressures, but they're not getting home. And that's going to be something that is going to be interesting here. So, I mean, do you think that Arkansas is going to try and ground and pound in this game as much as, or are they going to try and let Taylen Green throw it, or how are they going to get after the Aggies?
I think, well, Bobby's always got stuff in his bag of doing this. And I mean, listen, they know what their star players are. Right? It's Quinton Jackson and then Taylen Green with his legs. Like, that's been the best part of their offense. And I think they're going to stick with that because, you know, you mentioned it, and because I didn't realize until I was looking at the game notes that Texas A&M in rush defense is 13th in the SEC.
Yeah,
now that's 62nd overall, which, you know, is kind of crazy to think about. But they've had, obviously, I think Razorback fans can maybe see some gaps in there too, to try to get after them. So I know they're going to try to establish the run there, but at some point in time, Taylen Green's going to have to throw the ball. They're going to have to get the passing game going. When do they do that? How do they risk it? Do they run it until they can't anymore? Or do they come out throwing and maybe try to throw A&M into a loop? I'm not totally sure, but that's the thing that I know Bobby, who is like, just, I'm a huge fan of Petrino, and just to be honest, but people don't realize how rare it is to have an offensive coordinator, head coach, whatever, be in the college game for 20 plus years and still be extremely successful. Because so many times we see offenses change, the game changes. But the reason he's so good is that he is a mastermind at exploiting weaknesses of defenses. Mm-hmm. And so the weakness of defense for Texas A&M, of course, is in the Russian attack. So I think they're going to, I hate to say ground and pound, but they're definitely going to feed the studs, feed Jaquindon Jackson, feed Taylen Green. I think that even a guy like Rodney Hill, who's another running back that's in there, Braylon Russell, another running back, I think they're going to really hammer that home heavy, and then maybe try a few things over the top to keep Texas A&M honest.
I'll tell you the other thing, watching Andrew Armstrong, that dude's open, man. I mean, so can they get him the football? That's where the problems come, but he's open. He's a good player. After watching him, I mean, it seemed like every time they needed a big something in the pass game, he was open downfield. Now, he wasn't the one that caught that touchdown. That was
right.
The 49-yarder. Yeah. I was trying to look how to say that.
Yeah.
That play.
Name. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. But that play, that was something else. I still don't. What was it, like 3rd and 20 or something like that?
Yes, 3rd and 19. Yeah. Huge play. And it wasn't even that great of a throw. It was actually really underthrown, but he just kind of mossed him a little bit. And
he did. That was a fun play to watch. I just felt bad for old Zach Blackerby all game long. I feel
he'll get over it.
He'll get over it.
Yeah,
I don't think you feel bad for him one bit. I would. No.
Considering how many calls our Auburn always got against Arkansas, no, he can stuff it this time around.
I will never forget that one play. Was that against Arkansas when Bone? Oh, should I actually not bring that up? Are people?
We all know the backward snap, the backward spike.
That was one of the worst. I don't want to rile the Hogs up. I'm sorry I even brought it up, but that was
egregious.
Horrendous football call.
It was egregious, man. Yeah, but not that we remember that or anything. Yeah, we never talk about it.
Yeah, I apologize, Hog fans, for bringing that up. That's definitely on me. So, John, let's move on here and let's get into some keys to victory and some score predictions. We will have those two conversations coming up right here on a crossover of Locked On Aggies and Locked On Razorbacks. But I want to tell you all about our friends over at FanDuel. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you go to place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. You're going to want to head over to FanDuel.com to figure that out. And we'll talk about the line in this ball game. So wait for that. And then depending on whose take you like, you can go check that out on FanDuel. So keys to victory here, John. Keys to victory. For the Aggies, I talked about it a lot. And, something we had all week, and it's something we've discussed a little bit so far on the show, but knowing what Colin Klein wants to do offensively, he's going to want to run the rock. We know that. He's going to want to run the football. Will Texas A&M be able to do that? That, to me, is a key to victory. If the legs of Marcel Reed, Le'Veon Moss, Amari Daniels in this Texas A&M running game are able to get things going, I think that you're going to kind of be able to ugly this game up, and I would take the Aggies in because I don't know if I trust them to push the ball downfield through the air. So if you're not getting a lot going against the ground game, you're going to have problems. In all honesty, John, these teams are similar in that way. I mean, I think we can both agree on that. If Arkansas can't seem to get the run game going, that's going to be a problem too. And then the other thing is trenches. One thing I talked about on my show on Thursday, I mean, when it comes to physicality in the trenches, you look no further than Coach Sam Pittman. I mean, he is the best at it. Can Texas A&M match that physicality, match that I'm going to kill you across the line on the football field that Arkansas always brings? That is another key for me. But what are some keys for Arkansas to win this football game?
Well, I think you laid it out there. I mean, running the ball, if Arkansas is effective, or Jaquindon Jackson, he's averaging almost 7 yards a carry right now. And if he gets that around there again in this game, Arkansas is going to win. I think it's as simple as that, because if they can control the clock, keep the defense off the field, just keep pounding and pounding with Jaquindon Jackson and having them wear him down, I think it's just going to be a long day for the Aggies. It's just how it's going to, they're going to try to impose their will on them. And so to me, yeah, it's about running and getting that effectively going, but it's also about limiting the mistakes, because I know that you've probably seen this in the stats too, but Arkansas is one of the worst teams in turnover margin. I mean, it's just they've not done a good job of protecting the ball. They've had some fumbles in the beginning. We know Taylen Green's thrown some bad picks, and it's become costly. And so it's about playing, as mistake free as you can get. And something that Arkansas actually has too, that many people not realize, they're one of the fewest penalized teams in the SEC. So they've done a good job with that, but limiting turnovers and getting the rushing attack going is the biggest thing. But also, as we know in this game, it's about those stupid intangibles. It's about the stupid crap that happens randomly all the time, where it's, the KJ diving from the 6-yard line on 1st and goal and a fumble return getting returned for a touchdown, or Cam Little's game-winning field goal hitting the top of the upright, or, kicking to Christian Kirk for some stupid reason. Like all this stuff that's happened in the history of the series, even if Arkansas's played a great game, it's just been those one or two little plays that made the difference. And to me, that's the key, is also trying not to let that type of stuff happen, because this game's weird. It's always been weird. But unfortunately for Arkansas, they've usually ended up on the wrong side of the weird.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. It's funny. I think the special teams play will play a big role. And we talk about the mistakes have played a role in this series over the last, handful of years. But also at the same time, there's been some special teams plays. We saw one last year. And Texas A&M really hasn't had that explosive special teams play yet this year. And I'm wondering, are you due for it in this game? You've got some dynamic returners, both on kickoff and on the punt. So does that play a role? And hey, and knowing this game, is it a blocked field goal to the house? Is it a blocked punt? I mean, knowing how this works out, something like that, let's just own it. Something like that's going to happen. So now I guess is the ever important question, John, who wins this ball game? Do you think it's high or low scoring? And then if you take the Aggies, which I don't know if you are or not, I think you're going to go with the Hogs, and I understand it. Who do they cover in this game? I want to hear all of your thoughts on that.
Yeah. So I normally have always chose the Aggies to win this game just because it's been, I think they're 9-4
Yeah.
in this series which is so crazy because Arkansas actually leads A&M in their all-time series in Fayetteville, in Little Rock, and in College Station. Arkansas leads them, but this has not been very kind. But this is literally the only reason why. Throw out all the numbers. This is the only reason why I'm thinking Arkansas is going to win. Bobby Petrino's undefeated in this series for whichever team he's coached for. All right. He was undefeated at Arkansas at 3-0, and he's 1-0 at A&M. And also, Bobby Petrino, the last time that he was the last game he was the Arkansas head coach was in 2012 in the Cotton Bowl, to which Arkansas won that game handedly over a Kansas State team that was quarterbacked by who? Colin Klein. So all of that is to say is I'm trusting Bobby. Bobby, this is his game. This is his time. This is his stadium. So give me the Razorbacks, but it's going to be extremely close, like as it always is, like a 2-3 point game, something like that. But I think Arkansas finally, at the final game of this thing being in Arlington, they get the victory.
I respect it. I agree with you. I don't have a lot of confidence. I've seen a lot of A&M fans very confident in this football game. I don't know if I match that confidence. I'm getting ready to pick A&M to win. I am, but I don't see it being by more than 7 points. I think that Arkansas is still not getting the respect they deserve for the way they've started the season. They played a heck of a game against a really good Oklahoma State team. They won a game on the road on Saturday that I don't think a lot of people expected them to win. I think Arkansas, every time someone tells them they can't do something, they've done it this year. So I think this is a close game. I also think it's going to be medium scoring. I don't think it's going to be 38-31, but I don't think it's going to be 14-10. I think it's going to be somewhere in that like 28-24, 21-20-17 kind of range. Which is funny because I think that I feel like it's a game that should be a little more high scoring, but I have a feeling it's going to be one of those where we think that, and then it's a little bit below what you expect scoring wise.
Yeah.
I'm going to take Texas A&M to win this football game 28-24, and bettors everywhere are grumpy because that would in fact be a push as we sit currently. We're recording this on Thursday. Maybe it's 3.5 or 4.5 tomorrow, but as we sit, that would be a push. It's going to be a fun game. John, you're going?
Oh yeah. Unfortunately, I'll be there. Just like always. And sure, I'll be pissed at the end of the game. So it'll be great.
Well, but maybe you won't be. And that's why you go. So
yeah, that's right. That's right. So it should be a great game, though. I know it'll be the last one, and everyone's excited to move back to home and homes here on out. So it'll be great.
No question. Well, that is going to do it for this Locked On crossover. I'm Andrew Stefaniak from Locked On Aggies. That's John Nabors from Locked On Razorbacks. Really appreciate y'all being here. Everybody enjoy the football game, and we will see y'all post-game. Have a good one.